When they walked into Kathy's bedroom, what did they see?
She was stabbed, strangled, and beaten. It's about as bad as it could get.
He cut her from ear to ear.
She was fighting up until the last minute. That must have been a horrific few moments.
On her left leg was written, "I was here."
There's similar writing on the refrigerator that matches her leg.
Did the killer leave us a message?
I remember looking at people thinking, did they kill my mom?
There was a lot of pressure on law enforcement to find the killer.
It was scary. I used to sleep with a knife.
A serial killer was caught in the area.
Everybody thought it's got to be him.
Did he ever betray his dark side as he sat casually with law enforcement?
He did not. Here's this gruesome crime, the worst I've ever seen in my career. How could this person have done it?
Rivers, Michigan. The Christmas spirit was in the air throughout this tight-knit community when a savage act of violence brought fear instead of goodwill. Residents were stunned by the murder of 19-year-old Kathy Swartz, and the details of how it happened only made things worse. The defenseless teenager was killed in her home while her 9-month-old baby was just steps away. The dedicated team of investigators discovered a crime scene filled with clues, but no prime suspect. And over time, many wondered if justice would ever be served. December 2nd, 1988. It was 3:30 on a bitterly cold afternoon when a disturbing call came in to the Three Rivers Police Department. The woman on the line frantically explained that her neighbor, 19-year-old Kathy Swartz, was just found dead inside her apartment.
The caller reported that Kathy's fiancé had found her deceased. He was so shook up that he could not even talk on the phone.
Was he able to give her any details?
He was not. He was just so shocked by what he saw inside.
Officers raced to the apartment complex to investigate.
When first responders arrived here on scene, they came to apartment 102, Kathy's apartment.
As police and emergency workers quickly fanned out around the apartment, they made a chilling discovery. Kathy's 9-month-old baby crying in her crib.
She was untouched, thank God for that.
But the pristine room where the child was found stood in stark contrast to the rest of the upstairs. Detective Sergeant Ken Lanninga will never forget his first moments in the apartment. What did you see?
The thing that struck me the most was the amount of blood going up the steps. On the banister, there was blood smears. And then once we got upstairs, there was blood on the walls.
Describe to me what you saw when you walked into Kathy's bedroom.
She was lying on the floor on her back. She was wearing a nightgown that had been pulled up to about her chest area.
Was it obvious to you how she had been killed?
There was bruises on her body. There was stab wounds on her body. There was marks on her neck where it looked like somebody had tried to strangle her. And she had a very severe cut across her throat, almost ear to ear.
How painful was it to see the violence involved in this murder, knowing that her 9-month-old was just feet away?
It's hard to comprehend. At the time, I had young children. Thinking about that baby being in that crib crying for its mother, that's something that just really stuck with you.
But the veteran investigators had a job to do, and their first critical clue stood out amidst the mayhem.
There was a circle pattern on her shirt that closely resembled a pair of hairdresser's scissors.
Could the scissors have been used for the neck injury?
If they were sharp enough, then they could have been used to stab her.
Was the murder weapon found inside the apartment?
We were never able to find a murder weapon.
The unusual murder weapon also seemed to explain some of the other evidence police saw.
There was defensive wounds on her hands. It was obvious that she had put up a fight before she was killed.
She's fighting for her life right up until the last minute. It's just a very chaotic scene.
Detectives believe that the final stab wounds were inflicted near Kathy's bed.
The blankets were mostly pulled off. There was broken bottles also on the floor, and then there was a telephone lying on the bed. The cord was cut.
Police believed it had been cut to prevent the desperate young woman from getting help.
They found a fingerprint right here on the telephone that was in blood.
Evidence on the teenager's body told more of the gruesome story.
There was blood smears on her leg where maybe somebody's hand had slipped trying to move her.
As police studied the rest of the apartment, additional details emerged. Could they determine where the attack started?
We believe the attack began in the kitchen on the first floor.
There was some blood droppings in the kitchen.
Then as you follow that path of blood droplets over to the stairwell, they begin to increase in volume and intensity.
We theorize Kathy fled up the stairs and the attacker was stabbing her from behind.
As soon as you get to the top of that stair, there is all kinds of bloody impressions all the way down that hallway leading to that bedroom where she was ultimately found.
A check of the upstairs bathroom provided a disturbing look at what happened after the savage attack was over.
There was blood in the area of the tub shower, and it appeared that the individual cleaned up after the homicide took place.
We believe he took a shower because the faucet was still dripping, like it had been recently used.
And there was more.
When investigators processed the bathroom, they found this footprint in blood on the tile floor next to the shower.
Investigators sent all of the evidence to the lab for testing, hoping it would provide a lead.
We didn't know if they were Kathy's prints in blood or if it was the suspects.
Meanwhile, detectives downstairs look for clues as to how the killer had gotten inside. Were there any signs of a break-in?
No, there were not.
How many different ways could you enter the apartment?
There was a front door and a back door.
Police weren't sure which one the killer had used to enter the apartment, but they were confident they knew how he had fled the scene.
There was a candy cane found just outside the back door. He probably knocked it off the Christmas tree as he was leaving.
As investigators tried to wrap their heads around the evidence, their theory of the crime gained more focus.
There was no breaking and entering. There had to have been a lot of emotion that would give someone the rage to be able to do that to another human. It's the worst type of a scene that you can imagine. It was so brutal. The chances of it being someone that she was acquainted with were really high.
The attack on Kathy Swartz had turned her apartment into a house of horrors. But for some reason, the killer spared her infant daughter. And that raised a question that has troubled Courtney all her life. Have you ever thought about why you weren't hurt?
Oh, all the time. Now that I'm older and I'm raising my own kids, it hits me a little different than it did when I was little.
Courtney's grandparents did everything they could to make her childhood as normal as possible and keep a part of Kathy in her life. What did your grandparents tell you about your mother?
They said that I was her whole world. She loved me. She was responsible. She had a lot of friends. They all loved her, and she was fun to hang out with.
Investigators also wanted to know more about Kathy's life, but their questions were different. They wanted to know if there was someone who had a reason to hurt her. All the evidence at the crime scene indicated that her killer knew her habits and when she would be alone. What did the fact that the killer took time to clean up tell you about his mindset?
It was almost like he knew nobody was going to be back there for a little while.
Those clues and the lack of forced entry led detectives to start the investigation with Kathy's inner circle. Why did investigators need to take a close look at Kathy's fiancé?
Obviously, he would have access to the apartment.
Whoever discovers that body is going to have to be scrutinized immediately. He has to be the top guy on the list.
Kathy's fiancé was not her daughter's father, and the couple had only been engaged for 3 weeks. Detectives carefully questioned the young man about their relationship and his whereabouts during the window of time in which the murder had taken place. What did Kathy's fiancé say happened that morning?
He had to get up early for work. Kathy had gotten up with him, and she was going to go back to bed with the intent to get up when Courtney got up.
What happened next?
He left approximately between 5:30 and 5:45 that morning. They actually had a punch card system there, so he physically had to punch in and punch out.
And that system indicated that Kathy's fiancé had left the paper plant during the afternoon. How suspicious were investigators of the fact that he had left work the day of the murder for about an hour around lunchtime?
Very. As soon as you have that gap of time where someone isn't with other people, then it's got to raise suspicions. He's a possible suspect.
But was that 1 hour window enough time to commit the crime? Did investigators think it was possible that he went home, committed the murder, and then came back to work?
There's no way for him to be able to drive to Three Rivers, commit the murder, clean up, and then drive back to be back at work on time. There's just not enough time. So we were able to quickly establish that he had an alibi. He was at work.
Once Kathy's fiancé was cleared, police focused on the details in the rest of his story. The distraught young man said he had tried to get in touch with her around 1:45 that afternoon.
The fiancé called and there was no answer.
Based on his account, detectives now theorize that Kathy had been killed sometime after 6 a.m. and before the unanswered call at 1:45.
We also believe because she was still wearing her nightshirt that it occurred sometime in the morning, but we were never able to definitively put a time frame on there.
It was another clue that indicated that the killer had carefully planned his deadly attack. And the medical examiner's report added details to the grim story of Kathy's fight for survival. What did the medical examiner determine had happened to her?
Kathy had been strangled, and that was actually the mechanism of death. Then after the fact, the killer had slit her throat.
How would you describe Kathy's last moments alive?
Brutal. She wasn't only stabbed and strangled, but she was beaten. A lot of injury to her face. That must have been just a horrific few moments.
But perhaps the most critical clue was revealed when the body was studied under an alternative light source.
We turned this alternate light source and we're scanning the body, and on the inside of her left leg was written, "I was here."
Could you tell what it had been written in?
It was some kind of a marker.
We really thought that was our smoking gun.
Investigators then used the same technique to scan the entire crime scene. It led to a chilling discovery in Kathy's kitchen. When you looked at Kathy's refrigerator, what did you notice?
Written on the refrigerator was, "Harley was here."
What was your reaction? Because you had just discovered the 3 words on Kathy's leg, "I was here." And now you're seeing Harley was here.
It was almost like you were getting the feeling that the murderer left a calling card, and that freaked you out. Did the killer leave us a message?
Detectives investigating the murder of Kathy Swartz had just discovered a pair of disturbing clues. They believed that her killer had left them 2 handwritten messages, and he had carefully hidden them at the crime scene.
The statement on her leg, "I was here," and then Harley was here.
Similar writing on the refrigerator that matches writing on her leg.
Could you just make out faint markings of a marker with the naked eye?
You could see nothing unless you had that alternate light source and the filter goggles that you had to wear to see it.
Police knew they had to follow up on that lead. The first step was identifying the mysterious Harley. Could investigators find Harley's identity?
Yes, one of her ex-boyfriends, his nickname was Harley.
And a closer look at the ex-boyfriend raised more red flags.
She and Harley had had some problems. It wasn't a good relationship.
Witnesses said that Harley was upset when Kathy had recently gotten engaged.
He's not happy about that relationship, and obviously is very familiar with her, knows that she has a child, knows the apartment, knows the ins and outs, who's coming and going.
Detectives confronted the 25-year-old and asked him where he was during the critical 7.5 hours when the crime had likely taken place. Did he have an alibi for the day of Kathy's murder?
He did not have anyone to vouch where he was at. There was a huge gap in his timeline.
Investigators pressed Harley and asked him to take a polygraph, which he failed. Kathy's ex was now the prime suspect in her murder, and police believe their crime lab had just provided them with the physical evidence they needed to seal his fate.
They found an unknown fingerprint in blood on the phone. It had to have been someone there at the time of the assault. So we felt pretty confident that was the killer's fingerprint.
And testing of the blood revealed it did not belong to Kathy.
It was the killer's blood. We believe that he'd cut his hand at some point during the murder and left a bloody fingerprint on the telephone.
Was that the only place where the killer's blood was found at the scene?
Yes, every other blood sample turned out to be Kathy's.
And there was one other clue that the suspect had left behind.
The lab results showed that the footprint was the killer's footprint.
As Detective Sergeant Ken Lanninga prepared to test the crime scene evidence against samples provided by Kathy's ex-boyfriend, he was all too aware of what was at stake.
I made the comparison with Harley's known impressions, and you talk about pressure. I mean, everybody's waiting for me to do the examination and say, yeah, we got them, they're Harley's.
Did Harley's prints match the evidence collected from the scene?
No, they did not. These aren't Harley's.
In fact, not even Harley's blood type was a match.
That came as a big shock to all of us. It really let the wind out of everybody's sails.
Conversations with those closest to Kathy even revealed a plausible explanation for the written notes police had found.
The ex-boyfriend had been at the apartment during a party and in jest had wrote his name on the refrigerator.
Harley later claimed he also had jokingly written something similar on Kathy's leg.
We ultimately ruled him out as being the killer in Kathy's murder.
It was a crushing blow for every investigator on the case.
I was hoping this was going to be a quick case. We got a good suspect, we got the prints, and case over, but that was not the case.
Despite their disappointment, investigators refused to give up. There was a vicious killer on the loose, and no one was going to rest until he was caught. Detectives trying to solve the murder of Kathy Schwartz remain convinced that her killer was someone who knew when she would be alone and vulnerable. That meant taking a hard look at every man in her life, including the father of her daughter. Did his blood type and prints match the evidence from the crime scene?
They did not. Based on blood typing, he's not a match, and then the footprint didn't match, the fingerprint didn't match. We quickly ruled him out.
Investigators also had to look at other possibilities. Could Kathy have opened her door to a stranger who had been secretly stalking her?
We began to print everyone who was arrested by the department because we believe that the killer may have been somebody who lived in the Three Rivers area.
Just how much work went in to trying to match that evidence with a suspect?
There was a tremendous amount of work. I compared hundreds of prints, maybe 400 to 500 suspects, and about everybody that ever knew Kathy. But the prints were not in the system.
Although the best evidence police had led nowhere, getting Kathy's story out into the public eye did lead to a new tip. Did any of her neighbors see unusual activity that morning?
There was one neighbor who saw a person that they didn't recognize with a jacket that had an emblem on the back. That was very unusual.
A composite of the suspect and the jacket was created and released to the media. Investigators hope that the face or the jacket's unique logo might lead to another tip.
We were never able to locate an organization that recognized that emblem.
So neither the jacket nor the man were ever found?
Correct. We were not able to identify the person or the jacket.
Every member of law enforcement on the case struggled with the lack of progress.
It was frustrating. Everybody kept running into dead ends and not getting that all-important lead.
And it seemed clear that finding the lead that would break the case open required detectives to expand the scope of the investigation even further. Did you consider the possibility that Kathy was the victim of a serial killer?
We did. A serial killer definitely became a real possibility.
And one name really stood out: Jeffrey Wayne Gordon. Who is Jeffrey Wayne Gordon?
He was a serial killer that was caught in the area who had a style of killing that was very similar to Kathy's.
What were some of the similarities you focused on?
The big similarity for us was that he was known with all of his victims to slit their throat. And so we thought he was possibly the person that we were looking for.
And Gordon only heightened those suspicions with cagey remarks he made from behind bars. Did he admit to committing other murders that had been left unsolved?
Yes, he confessed to killing more women. He never gave specifics, but he bragged about other murders that law enforcement had not discovered.
Did he ever admit to Kathy's murder?
No, he never admitted to her murder.
Still, police were able to get a warrant for his fingerprints to compare to the bloody one found on Kathy's phone. Did Gordon's prints match the evidence from the crime scene?
They did not.
So based on that alone, you could rule him out?
Yes, his fingerprints and his footprint did not match what was found at the scene.
The case was now back to square one, and there was no new suspect on the horizon. But detectives hope that a major advancement in law enforcement would jumpstart the investigation.
As the computer technology advanced, those prints were put into the automated fingerprint identification systems, and over the years it kept being run through, but it never hit on anybody.
The news was devastating for Kathy's daughter, Courtney, who had spent her entire life in Three Rivers, trapped in the dark cloud left behind by the crime. At what age did you find out about what had happened to your mother?
I read the police report when I was 16. When I did read exactly what happened, I was disgusted.
What made you want to read the police report?
I was the baby when all this happened, so I wasn't old enough to remember. I feel like the more I know what happened, the more I know my mom.
I can't imagine hearing that at any age. How did you deal with the truth?
Because I was so young, it was traumatic, and I just had to still live life.
In her heart, Courtney knew she would never have peace until her mother's killer was brought to justice. How difficult was it for you that the case remained unsolved?
It was scary. I remember just looking at random people thinking, did they kill my mom? A kid should not have to even think about anything like that. Every night I would go to bed and I would just pray that her case would get solved.
And as the years went by, Courtney never gave up. Neither did the investigators trying to find her mother's killer. And her faith and their hard work were about to be rewarded in a way no one could have expected. The unsolved murder of Kathy Schwartz remained a priority for investigators, and they hoped that advances in DNA technology might reignite the case.
With the advent of CODIS, we were able to enter the sample, and we thought that with that DNA in the system that we would be able to identify a killer.
But the results were not what they expected. Did you ever get a hit in CODIS?
There's always hope that once it's in CODIS that it will hit, but in this case there was no hits.
Were you surprised that whoever killed Kathy Schwartz had not been involved in another felony, or at least hadn't been caught?
It is surprising based on how violent it was. I did expect that we would get a hit.
Forensic expert Joel Schultz and Detective Sam Smallcombe were part of the cold case team that reopened the investigation in 2022. What did you see as your biggest challenge when you took on the case?
Where do we start? Because when you looked at the case files, there was so much information, so many tips that had come in over the years.
It becomes a huge hurdle to try to figure out what's actually in there.
Unsure of how to organize the materials, police turned to students at Western Michigan University for help. What did the students contribute to your investigation?
We had literally boxes of paper files on this murder. They made everything digital for us and then made it readily searchable.
Police could now revisit any detail in the massive file with the touch of a key. And that ease of access became crucial when modern DNA science allowed detectives to forensically narrow the list of potential suspects down to a single family tree. What did the forensic process reveal?
It was one of 4 brothers from the family that had lived just outside of Three Rivers back in the late 80s.
Although police found no links to Kathy Schwartz in the police reports, one of the brothers' rap sheet left investigators convinced they were on the brink of an arrest.
We immediately see that one of the 4 brothers has an extensive criminal history. Everybody thought it's got to be him.
But the easy answer was almost immediately dismissed.
His DNA was already in the system, and it didn't match. So we quickly eliminated him.
DNA and fingerprint comparisons were used to scratch 2 more brothers off the list. So that left you then with 1 suspect.
Yeah, so that narrowed it down to 1 brother who lived in South Carolina.
After 35 years, the investigation had a brand new suspect to zero in on.
We were laser focused on the remaining brother, Robert Waters.
Robert Waters was 18 years old at the time of Kathy's murder. He had moved away from Michigan shortly after the crime. Over the years, he had started a business, got married, and raised a family. Did Robert Waters have a criminal history?
He did not. He'd never been arrested for anything, which explains why his DNA and his fingerprints were not in the system.
But a deeper dive revealed that Waters did have a connection to Kathy Schwartz.
Robert had been classmates with Kathy's fiance, and he had actually visited their apartment approximately 1 month prior to her murder.
Detectives were now confident that the DNA had identified the right man. When they approached the 53-year-old's home with local police, they were ready for anything.
Hey, Robert. Morning. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
How can we help you?
This is Todd Peters from Michigan State Police.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Robert really didn't question us about the investigation. Not even, so much as, oh, what kind of a case is it?
We were wondering if you'd have time to come down to the PD and talk with us down there.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was pretty calm and cool about it.
Waters told police he wanted a lawyer present during his questioning. But investigators were able to execute a search warrant for Waters' fingerprints and an impression of his foot. They were immediately compared to the bloody evidence found at the crime scene. The results were stunning.
They got a match on that fingerprint.
And the footprint were also a match.
What was your reaction to the fingerprint match?
Excitement, relief. We finally identified our killer.
Detective Sergeant Smallcombe told Waters what that identification meant.
We did submit the print that we took from you earlier. It did match to the one at the crime scene. At this time, you are under arrest for the murder of Kathy Schwartz. Okay? Okay.
What was his reaction?
It was just like I told him it was raining outside. He didn't have shock or denial or anything.
What did his nonchalance suggest to you?
Robert had probably played that scenario over in his head 100 times over the years.
Did he ever admit that he killed Kathy Schwartz?
He never did.
Still, any lingering questions investigators had were answered by the rest of the scientific testing. When you compared Robert Waters' DNA with the DNA evidence from the crime scene, what was the result?
It was a direct match.
Step on up. Go ahead. You can't find it back for me.
How strong was your case against Robert Waters?
Very strong. We had a fingerprint in his blood on the telephone. We had his footprint. There was no doubt. All of the pieces were there to get a conviction.
Detectives immediately called Kathy's daughter to share the news. What went through your mind when you found out that Robert Waters' DNA matched the evidence from the crime scene?
I was in shock. I started bawling. I couldn't believe it.
Did you feel any relief?
Yes, I wanted him to see me in the courtroom and feel my presence for my mother.
But just days later, Courtney got word that the man who killed her mother had found a way to prevent that moment from ever happening.
We were notified that Mr. Waters had taken his own life in the Beaufort County Jail.
How did you react to that news?
I was angry. He knew he was guilty, and now we were never going to get the why question answered. And that's what I really felt like Kathy's family deserved. Why did he do it?
How does it make you feel that he never had to accept responsibility for what he did?
It makes me mad, really sad. It's still not fair.
Although investigators never got a confession from Waters, experience and the evidence allowed them to formulate a hypothesis.
The theory is that he must have come over there to try and hook up with Kathy and that she turned him down.
Police believe that after being rebuffed, Waters flew into a homicidal rage and attacked Kathy with the only weapon he could find, a pair of scissors.
That's what I believe based upon the behavioral analysis of such a depraved crime.
The lack of answers was tormenting, but Courtney also knows there was nothing Robert Waters could have said or done that would ease the pain of what he stole that day, the joy of knowing her mother. What was the hardest part of growing up without your mother?
Feeling alone. I had my grandparents, but I wasn't theirs. They're both gone too. And now I don't have anybody to ask for advice. I don't have anybody to talk to help make decisions. I feel like I don't have a person. It's very hard. I just want her to hug me. I never got to experience that. That hurts a lot.
Following Robert Waters' suicide, police entered his fingerprints and DNA into the National Offender databases. But so far, he hasn't been connected to any other crimes. I'm Paula Zahn. Please join us again next time when we're back on the case.
It's emergency.
We need an ambulance right away. It's like a murder scene.
What did police discover when they arrived at the scene?
Sandra dead on the floor, her face badly bruised.
The entire body was covered with green liquid. It was very brutal.
We didn't have anything to go on right away.
It's difficult to see kids crying over somebody that they admired.
Why would this happen to somebody as wonderful as her?
I lost a friend. Most importantly, I lost my person.
How do you think he got inside her apartment?
I don't know, but I was shaken up. What if this person is still out there?
No one saw or heard anything. We don't have a viable suspect.
She had taken a ride down to the store.
You could see that she purchased a 6-pack and some scratch tickets.
She gets into this green Honda and they drive off.
That was going to be the smoking gun.
I remember saying, here we go. Now we have something.
On the case in Worcester, Massachusetts, about 50 miles west of Boston. The city known as the heart of the Commonwealth became the backdrop for a terrifying mystery when Sandra Hare was found murdered in her own home. As police studied the crime scene, a puzzling trail of evidence slowly began to emerge. What detectives discovered allowed them to retrace the respected teaching assistant's final hours alive. But even after piecing together the witness account and studying the videotape, it was an unexpected clue that ultimately led investigators to Sandra's killer. February 5th, 2017. It was a frosty Sunday morning, and the town of Worcester was gearing up to watch its beloved Patriots in the NFL's biggest game. When dispatchers received a call from a distraught man who had made a shocking discovery.
911, it's emergency.
Our upstairs neighbor, we need an ambulance right away.
The man on the line said he had looked in on 49-year-old Sandra Hare after his mother asked him to check on the single woman.
He was living with his mother at the time below Sandra's apartment.
His mother noticed that her apartment door was open, which was very odd.
He went to investigate and called out to her, no answer. So he proceeded into her apartment and found the body on the kitchen floor.
Over the phone, emergency workers tried to get more information.
Is she bleeding? No. Oh, my God. Something's wrapped around her face.
Something's wrapped around her face? Like what?
Like a towel, and it's wrapped all the way around her face. This is really freaking me out. It's like a murder scene.
Worcester police arrived at the multifamily home within minutes and were led upstairs. What did police discover when they arrived at the scene?
Sandra, deceased, face down on the kitchen floor.
Sandra was wearing what looked like blue pajama pants, along with a pink fleece. Tightly wrapped around her head was a black and gray sweater. When investigators saw clothing wrapped around her neck, did they suspect death by strangulation?
It was a high likelihood. We weren't sure, though, because we weren't able to truly examine the body until she was brought to the medical examiner's office.
The victim's cause of death wasn't the only thing investigators struggled with.
It was definitely an odd scene. something that you don't really come across very often.
What was so unusual about this crime scene?
The entire body is covered with a bluish-green liquid dish detergent and also a powder.
That trail of cleaning supplies led from the body out the front door. Did you find the fluid and the powder anywhere else?
Yes, in the bathroom sink. There were 2 bottles. One was a bottle of Ajax, and the other was a bottle of Fabuloso.
Everybody assumed that that was the liquid and the powder that we found around Sandra.
And there were more puzzling clues.
They also found bedding and clothing on the floor of the shower.
You could see that the white powder had been sprinkled all over those clothes inside of the tub.
What were your theories as to why these substances were at the scene?
My thoughts were that it was an attempt for whoever the suspect was to cover up their tracks and to try to clean up whatever they may have left behind.
What was there to be cleaned up? Was there any blood at the scene?
No, there was no visible blood. What we were thinking initially was maybe they were concerned about their DNA being left behind, hairs, fibers, anything of that sort.
So far, it appeared that plan had worked. Investigators scoured the apartment for something that might link the killer to the crime.
We had discovered a white wallet that was located in the kitchen sink.
Was there anything significant in the wallet?
As soon as you opened it, you saw Sandra's school identification.
We found a bank card, but no cash.
What did you make of her wallet that was found in the sink?
It was interesting that it was found in the sink. It looked like maybe the killer was trying to contaminate the wallet to throw off any DNA.
Besides the missing cash, police couldn't find any other evidence that the murder had been a robbery gone wrong.
It didn't look like anything had been rummaged through. From what we could see, everything appeared to be in its place.
Were there any signs of forced entry into the apartment?
No, there were no signs.
Where do you think the killer entered the apartment?
I believe he came right through the front door.
In fact, it looked like Sandra may have been hosting a guest at the time she was attacked.
They were able to collect a can of beer that was on the kitchen table that was full, and then a can of beer that was in the sink open.
Whoever this person was, she was familiar enough to feel comfortable with this person in her own home.
Police studied the location of Sandra's belongings and theorized she had been assaulted shortly after returning to her apartment.
It seems reasonable that somebody would come into their home and place their belongings down.
What did you find in her bed?
We found some lottery tickets as well as her cell phone.
Police hoped once they were able to unlock Sandra's phone and study its GPS data, it might help them determine where Sandra had been. And even more importantly, they would see the call log and text that might reveal if someone had returned to the apartment with her. But for now, they could only focus on piecing together what they saw at the crime scene.
You have the empty beer can in the kitchen sink. You have the full one on the kitchen table. In my mind, it seemed reasonable that they were going to have a beer together.
Was there any evidence of sexual assault?
No, there was not.
Her clothing was all there, and our crime scene unit didn't locate any trace evidence.
In fact, police didn't find any evidence that pointed to a motive for the crime. Did it look like to you that it was a planned attack?
No, all we knew was that we have Sandra dead on the floor. Was it personal? Could it have been an ex-lover? The possibilities were endless.
Have you ever investigated a murder that was as confusing as this one?
No, I'd say that this definitely takes the cake. The whole thing was bizarre, and we didn't have anything to go on right away.
As investigators try to make sense of the confusing clues at the crime scene, Sandra Hare's loved ones were trying to process the devastating news. How did you find out your aunt had been murdered?
We were watching the Super Bowl, and my aunt called me crying, and she couldn't catch her breath. She was like, they found Auntie Buffy in her apartment, and she said she had passed away. I think at first I was in shock. My legs went a little numb, and I thought, this can't be true. They said foul play was involved, but they didn't really give us any other information besides that.
For Mackenzie, who was just 21 at the time, her sense of grief ran deep. Her Aunt Sandra had been a huge part of her life.
I lost a friend, but most importantly, she was just my person. Supportive, encouraging.
Sandra's murder resonated with the community as well.
Everyone just loved and adored her. She was a lot of people's glue. She was strong, she had unbelievable courage, and most of all, she was just so lovable.
Sandra had grown up in Worcester, was a star athlete, and had become an educator at a local high school, hoping to guide young people in the right direction. What was she like around students and children?
She was the students' safe place. Students felt very safe when they were with her.
Her best friend Corrine and her colleagues at school told police that Sandra had been a role model her whole life.
We played basketball together. That's where we first started hanging out. She was a fighter. She was a go-getter. She became that leader that everybody admired.
What did you see as some of her strengths as a teacher?
Her strength was that she listened to what students had to say. She would try to help them to find a solution to the challenges that they were experiencing.
And the outpouring of grief from everyone who Sandra had touched was on display at her funeral. What did it mean to you to see all of those students at Sandra's memorial service?
It was an honor to see those kids there, but it was very difficult to see kids cry over somebody that they admired and loved. Because she was a beloved teacher, the kids loved her.
It affected her students and also every staff member there, because obviously there was no answer as to why this would ever happen to somebody as giving and as wonderful as her.
As detectives pondered that question, they could only hope that Sandra's autopsy would give their investigation a focus. What appeared to be the cause of her death?
There was obvious signs of deep bruising to her neck. Also, she had a broken hyoid bone, which is common in strangulation. And that's ultimately what they said was the cause of her death.
It was very brutal.
Were any defensive wounds discovered?
Yes, it was apparent that she had been assaulted. Her face was badly bruised. She had bruises on her arms, her legs, really all over her body.
But in the end, the autopsy didn't reveal any physical evidence that could be directly connected to Sandra's killer. Detectives hope a closer examination of the 49-year-old's relationships might provide a lead. And what they discovered was troubling. It turned out that Sandra had issues with her downstairs neighbor, Gino, the man who had first reported her dead.
After speaking to the other neighbors, it was clear that Sandra had a contentious relationship with him.
And those closest to Sandra went even further. What do Sandra's friends tell police about Gino that made them suspicious of him?
She had told her friends, if I ever end up dead, it's the guy downstairs.
If I end up dead, Gino had something to do with it? That's a pretty extreme thing to say, isn't it?
Absolutely. He's the one that found her dead. So, of course, the alarm bells went off. We're going to look at him. We need to take a deeper look and see what he has to say about this.
The investigation into Sandra Hare's murder suddenly had its first suspect. Investigators trying to solve the murder of Sandra Hare had zeroed in on their first suspect, her downstairs neighbor, Gino. Based on what Sandra's friends and family said, it seemed possible that the man who had discovered her lifeless body was also her killer. You talked with Gino the day Sandra's body was discovered. Did he seem at all traumatized by her murder?
No. Gino seemed annoyed.
When you say annoyed by their relationship or annoyed that someone had been murdered?
I think he was annoyed his building has become a crime scene. He was being questioned and didn't want to be bothered.
You had been told by a friend of Sandra's that Sandra had told her, if I end up dead, my downstairs neighbor will have had something to do with it. How did he explain why Sandra would have said that?
He said that they didn't have a good relationship. She was a noisy neighbor, and they would confront her, and it would never end well.
Those words and Gino's combative attitude raised serious concerns for police.
It definitely raised eyebrows.
It's a whodunit at this point. So we have to take a serious look at it.
Both of Sandra's downstairs neighbors, Gino and his mother, were brought in for questioning. Did the neighbors remember hearing anything suspicious the night before?
Yes, Gino and his mother recalled hearing loud noises coming from Sandra's apartment. They had heard what sounded like her arguing with somebody.
In fact, Gino and his mother provided police with text messages documenting that they had asked Sandra to quiet down that night.
We knew based on the cell phone downloads that they had reached out to Sandra.
Gino and his mom texted Sandra complaining about the noise shortly before midnight.
Is it true that Gino actually started pounding the ceiling to indicate to her to stop making the noise?
He did take a broom and pounded it up against his own ceiling to try to send her a message that the noise was bothering him.
Gino claimed that at the time, he never thought that Sandra might be in danger. But now that he knew what had happened, he reconsidered.
He relayed to me that he heard a thud, and he heard what he thought was someone pacing, and he didn't think it was Sandra.
There was a loud thump right around midnight, and then everything stopped.
Gino then added an odd detail. He told detectives he also heard movement in Sandra's apartment early the next morning while his mother walked their dog.
Gino actually reported that while his mother was out of the apartment, he could hear footsteps in Sandra's apartment.
Could he remember when he heard those footsteps?
He believed it was sometime between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m.
According to Gino, his mother returned from her walk shortly after those footsteps stopped. That's when she asked him to go upstairs, and he found Sandra's body. Investigators went to work. verifying the timeline Gino and his mother provided. And getting access to Sandra's cell phone records was a major help.
We knew that at about 11:23 p.m., Sandra was texting friends about going to a Super Bowl party the next day.
That was the last time Sandra used her phone to make a call or respond to texts. The evidence supported Gino's account that the attack began just minutes later. You questioned Gino twice. Did his stories remain consistent?
100%, yes.
Nevertheless, did you believe him?
I did. He's brutally honest about their relationship and that she was a noisy neighbor. Wasn't trying to direct us away from or mislead us. He said that he thought that maybe he should have called the police that night. So I didn't feel from those interviews that this was our guy.
Detectives carefully considered what it meant if everything Gino and his mother had told them was true. Whose footsteps had he heard in Sandra's apartment after midnight and again the next morning? Could they have been the sounds of her killer covering his tracks?
There was two very plausible theories. Had he remained up there, it's possible, but I believed more likely than not that he had left the apartment and returned to try to clean up.
Detectives canvassed the neighborhood looking for a witness or surveillance video from the area.
It was tough. We didn't have any witnesses.
No one saw or heard anything that would alarm them. We don't have a viable suspect here. We had zero.
Until Sandra's best friend, Corinne, remembered a chilling call she had received from Sandra just a week before her murder.
She's just like, I need you to stay on the phone with me. This big guy, he's following me, and I don't know who he is. And I'm like, hang up with me, call 911, and I'm on my way to meet you. She's like, no, I'll be okay, I'm almost home.
Based on what she said, she was able to run away.
It wasn't that she just told one friend. She told several friends. And through her cell phone, we were able to determine that this had occurred on January 31st.
Did her friend say she was pretty shaken up by what had happened?
Yes, it certainly shook her, and she was nervous as a result of it.
No one knew who the mysterious man was, nor why he was following Sandra. What did you think the chances were that whoever it was that night might have been involved in the murder?
That was definitely interesting to us. If anything was on the table, we couldn't rule anything out.
While investigators now had a lot of puzzle pieces, they still had no clue how they would put them together. But they were about to get a tip that would bring Sandra's final hours into terrifying focus. Based on the accounts of her friends and neighbors, investigators believe that Sandra Hare had been attacked in her apartment between 11:25 and midnight. Perhaps by a man who had been stalking her in the days leading up to her murder. But so far, they had no potential suspects.
We were trying to reach out and talk to whoever we can, track down who she was with, and try to create a timeline.
And Sandra's cell phone records allowed police to formulate a picture of her final hours, starting with a trip she had made to the store earlier that night.
After looking through her text messages, we were able to determine that she had met up with a friend and had taken a ride down to Santiago's Liquors.
Police spoke with the friend who had given her the ride. Did her friend indicate that Sandra seemed to be okay that night?
Yes, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. She wasn't in any distress. As we understood it, the friend and his girlfriend dropped her off, and they believed that she was just going to walk home after that.
Surveillance video picked up Sandra getting out of the couple's SUV in front of the store just before 10 p.m.
You see her arrive. She goes into the store.
Next, police reviewed what the cameras captured inside the store. What did the surveillance video reveal?
We were able to identify Sandra in the store and what she was purchasing.
You can see that she purchased a 6-pack of natural ice beer and some scratch tickets as well.
Police believe those tickets were the ones they discovered in her apartment, and the beer was the same brand as the cans found at the crime scene. As she paid for the items, Sandra didn't look worried nor frightened.
It looked like she was friendly with everybody. She was talkative.
Investigators really focused on what happened next. Sandra began talking with a man she seemed to know, and they left the store together.
Here's surveillance footage of Sandra coming outside the liquor store at around 10:07 p.m. She gets into this green Honda that we have on surveillance footage. He then comes outside and they drive off.
Can you actually tell where the green Honda is going in the video?
As it leaves the parking lot, you're able to see that the vehicle exits and travels east, which would have been in the direction of Sandra's house.
But that's the last time investigators saw Sandra in the green Honda.
There really were no surveillance systems in the area.
And that made identifying the man seen in the store with Sandra a top priority. Did you think that this was the break that you had been waiting for?
Absolutely. You see her getting into the backseat of a car hours before she was murdered. We want to track down this person and find out exactly what had transpired.
And there was more important information on that surveillance video. The camera recorded an image of the Honda's plates.
From that, we immediately did a registration check on the vehicle, and we determined that the registered owner lived right in the neighborhood.
Still, investigators had more work to do. The owner of the car was not the man in the video.
It was registered to a female. We wanted to talk to her. We wanted to find out who that male was that was in the vehicle.
Police were surprised that the car's owner immediately supplied an answer.
She spoke to police. She was cooperative. And her brother was actually the one inside the store talking to Sandra.
The woman told detectives that she and her brother Ismail were friends of Sandra's and that they had given her a ride home that night. Did she say she actually dropped Sandra off at her apartment?
She did. She was a really good witness. She talked about that her brother interacted with her inside of the liquor store, came outside, said, "We're going to give Sandra a ride." When she got out of the car, she was happy, went to the door of her building. They actually waited for her to go in, and the door closed behind her before she drove away.
Police wondered if Ismail would tell them the same story. Did he admit to talking with Sandra in the store that night?
He did. He admitted to talking to her, told us about how he knew her, how he grew up with her, and that they gave her a ride home. What we saw on video was consistent with what he was telling us.
Did he say if Sandra mentioned anything about her plans for the rest of the night after they dropped her off?
No. They had exchanged phone numbers, but through the phone records, we saw that they never communicated again.
Police believe that Ismail and his sister were probably telling the truth, but they didn't accept their account at face value. How is law enforcement able to corroborate their stories?
Primarily through a license plate reader. She drove her brother home to a different section of the city and then came back home to her residence, which was nearby.
Those license plate cameras, which photograph every car that passed them, verified her story almost to the minute.
Once we were able to confirm all of that, we were confident that they had nothing to do with it.
The once promising lead had gone nowhere. Now, police knew that the attack had begun at least an hour after Sandra was dropped off at her home. Where did that leave this case?
We still were trying to figure out who could have been in her apartment. We were still talking to people, re-interviewing people. It was tough. We were having a hard time figuring out who she was with.
Did it ever get to the point where you doubted that you would be able to solve the case?
Certainly, the thought crossed my mind, I don't know if we're going to be able to crack this one.
But that was about to change in a way no one on the case could have expected, when a brand new suspect suddenly entered the crosshairs of the investigation. Police still had nothing that linked a suspect to Sandra Hare's murder, when they got a stunning break. What happened that ended up moving the case forward?
We were notified that the crime lab was able to identify DNA on the beer can and the clothing that was found wrapped around Sandra's face.
It was pretty exciting.
Especially because police had video evidence that proved that beer had been purchased a little more than an hour before Sandra's murder.
We were really banking on that DNA evidence. That was the smoking gun.
Investigators hoped that uploading the unknown profile into the national database would reveal Sandra's killer. Instead, it deepened the mystery. What happened when that DNA profile was uploaded into CODIS?
It came back to a match to a crime here in Worcester in the early 2000s.
In that case, a young woman had been sexually assaulted by 3 men.
DNA had been collected from the victim. They were able to obtain 3 separate DNA profiles of the suspects.
2 of the 3 suspects had been arrested, and their DNA profiles were in CODIS.
Only one had not been identified, and that was the one that was also attached to our murder.
I remember saying to other members on the team, here we go, now we have something.
Investigators dug deep into the case file from the sexual attack, searching for a lead on the uncharged suspect.
Through the police reports and the names that were in those old reports, we were able to come up with Jose Melendez.
Investigators discovered that although Melendez had a long history of criminal activity, he had managed to stay one step ahead of the law through the use of aliases.
As the investigation progressed, we found that Melendez had outstanding arrest warrants.
Police knew they could use those warrants to get their suspect's DNA, but they believed that finding him would be challenging. Officers hit the streets, and during a routine neighborhood canvass, fortune smiled on the investigation once again.
Some anonymous said, by the way, he lives right around the corner here. He was here in Worcester, living directly across from Santiago's liquor store.
Police were stunned.
We began to conduct surveillance in the area by Santiago's Liquors.
We were only on surveillance for maybe 30 minutes, and he walked out of the building.
What happened once he walked out?
We were able to take him into custody without any incident at all. He was surprised.
And Melendez still seemed confused in the interrogation room. How would you describe his demeanor?
He was calm. He was inquisitive. Why am I here?
Jose Melendez initially denied he was the man police were looking for.
You know me?
Yes.
Let me see.
That's when you were young. He was like...
Oh, okay.
Once Melendez confirmed his identity, police switched gears.
We asked him, have you heard about something happening in the neighborhood recently where someone was killed? And eventually I show him a picture of Sandra to gauge his reaction.
She was a teacher. I don't know.
Was an adamant denial. I don't know her. I've never seen her.
Detective Tarquini pressed Melendez.
The teacher. Did you ever have a beer with her? Did you ever drink with her? Never been in her apartment?
No.
As soon as he said I had never been in her apartment, we knew that was a good thing for us.
That's because Melendez's denial destroyed any reasonable explanation he might have had for his DNA being found at the crime scene. And investigators believe they knew the reason Melendez was willing to take that risk. He was confident he had already destroyed any physical evidence.
People who commit these crimes, they think, I cleaned up. They're not going to get me. He knew that he had put Ajax all over the body. He thought that the science wasn't going to get him.
But Melendez was wrong. His DNA profile was a match to the evidence discovered on the beer can and on Sandra's sweater. What was your reaction to those lab results?
It was incredible. Finally, we got him. And the science is spot on. This is 100% our guy.
At what point was Melendez confronted with the DNA evidence proving that he had been inside Sandra's apartment?
My second conversation with him, he became silent.
When he went silent, what was going through your mind?
Melendez was a very well-educated criminal. He had circumvented the system for a very, very long time. For someone to go quiet, when they know they're done, it didn't surprise me.
With Melendez in custody for murder, police were able to share the news with Sandra's loved ones. But their long journey to justice wasn't over just yet. His attorneys were able to keep his case stalled in the justice system for years.
The process was one of the hardest parts for me, waiting for this guy to be convicted. I was scared. I was shaken up. I was nervous because there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, and any little thing could throw everything off. You think it's over, and it's not over.
In fact, there was one more twist to the story. Prosecutors' concerns about proving all the elements of the murder led them to offer Melendez a plea deal.
Ultimately, he pled to manslaughter, which carries a sentence of 17 to 19 years.
The decision was disappointing for those closest to Sandra and to the investigators on the case. Did he ever tell law enforcement what happened that night?
No, we did try to re-interview him. He refused to speak with investigators.
Do you think he ever will talk?
No, I don't think he will. I don't think we'll ever know exactly what had happened in that apartment. He's going to take that incident to his grave.
That's frustrating for everybody because no one really knows why he did that to Sandra.
The lack of answers and the sentence Melendez received remain difficult for Sandra's loved ones to accept to this day. You think justice was served?
That's a tricky one because the family had to make the choice, and I know some of the family members wanted life in prison, but my fear was that some of that evidence could backfire and he may be set free. I think it was a good choice.
Corrine has chosen to put Jose Melendez out of her mind and focus instead on her best friend, Sandra. What do you think her legacy is?
Her students, they'll never forget her. There's so many students that graduated because of her. So she had to drag them across the stage for graduation. She would get them there. Her legacy does live on.
A legacy that also includes her niece, Mackenzie, now a nurse, who credits her career to the passionate advice of her Aunt Sandra.
She would always say, everyone needs a little help. Don't ever hold back. And don't take life for granted. She never had excuses. She always told me, if you have courage, you can do amazing things in this world.
Following Melendez's sentencing, Sandra's loved ones released a statement. In it, they thanked police and prosecutors for their tireless work and remembered Sandra as someone who never gave up on her family or her students. I'm Paula Zahn. Please join us again next time when we're back on the case.